Hello, everybody. Welcome to Disabilities Redefined with Dr. Wagner. I am Dr. Truett Wagner, and as always, very, very happy to be here. My guest this evening, my very early morning guest, is from Australia, Miss Alyse Price-Tobler. And
Yes.
we are very, very happy you are with us. And good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm terribly excited, actually, to be speaking to you and getting the word out. So, yeah.
Yes, no, I'm excited as well. We're very, very happy you're with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Alyse, we are going to jump right into the interview. Now, listen, you have many years of experience, so I just want to get a good idea of your background first. Then what I would like to do is more or less jump into more like a discussion of ways you think you could help, or ways we all think, in other words, through our experience, that we could empower our population, the populations that we're working with. Okay.
Yes.
So
Okay.
now you are Australian. Now, where did you go to college?
Well, actually, I've been to 15 schools in my lifetime, but university, I started at Wollongong University and I moved over to Torrens University in Sydney.
Uh-huh. Okay. And now you have an amazing website. I love your website. We're definitely going to let everybody know where to go to see this website you've got. Now it is am I saying it correctly? The Barrow Road Counseling and Psychotherapy Center?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Well, it is beautiful. Now,
Thank you.
now you're working there mostly, but I understand that you also go, as we would say in America, you also go out in the field a good bit too. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. I believe a lot of my work is actually done in community, in people's homes, and out in the street. So I do a lot of work in the street with people who are homeless, with
Yes.
mental illness.
Yes. Now, what is again, is it the SEMPI, the SEMPI Communication Model?
Yeah, it's actually pronounced SEMPI, Social
SEMPI?
Communication
Okay.
Model.
SEMPI
Yes,
Social Communication Model. Okay.
yes,
Can you
yes.
just give us a description on that and let us know how you're using it?
Yeah, okay. So, well, basically, I talk about a lot in community about stigma reduction, and I see very big class divides. And the people that I work with, often what I notice with them is they aren't taught to have a voice. They don't have a voice. I was one of them growing up. That's probably why I spot it so
Mm-hmm.
readily. And so a long time ago, I realized that part of my job working in community was to be an advocate, to be a support worker. And instead of me coming from an ego space and doing all their work for them,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that a long time ago, it was really important that one, I advocate for them when they don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Two, that I teach them how to have a voice. We practice how to have a voice, and then I empower them to stand on their own and use their voice. And
Mm-hmm.
this was something that I've always practiced in community. I believe that anybody with a disability or a mental health issue or whatever needs to go through those steps
Yes.
it, with me as a community worker, and then I empower them so that they can not have to rely on me all the time. And there was only always one of me with them. So
Mm-hmm.
I designed the SEMPI social communication model so that not only could I teach this to them, then they could actually teach it to the next person themselves
Mm-hmm.
and become empowered that way. And then they could empower the next person. So it's an altruistic pay it forward model that
Mm-hmm.
teaches empowerment and teaches people how to have a voice. So
Great.
that's what my model is.
You also have something called Still.
Yes.
The audio recordings, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a digital recording that my girlfriend, colleague, also Tanya Rose, and I developed. She's a composer and a musician, and because I'm a psych, I
Mm-hmm.
put a lot of the techniques that I use with my clients, patients, depending on where I am, and I put them all into a recording
Mm-hmm.
to still people's anxious thinking, because a lot of the time the work that I do and the words that I use people aren't aware of. So they're
Right.
just different techniques that I've just put into a digital recording with Tanya. And then because of the population that I work with, most of them don't have any money. So we just decided to release it for free.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, and they can find that on the website, right?
yeah.
Okay. Now you actually
Okay.
give names to various areas in your center, like the garden, the room. Is that correct? Yeah, yeah. Is that
Yes,
correct? Yes.
yes.
Well, it was lovely. Now, how important do you think external uh, comfortability is in therapy?
Well, I work also in the hospital system,
Mm-hmm.
so in the mental health units,
Yes.
and I I just I work with a friends of mine, colleagues called Beautiful Minds, and what they do is they beautify the hospitals and they create garden areas for inpatients who are recovering.
Mm-hmm.
So what we wanted to recreate was something that was very holistic and
Right.
very grounding for people. So we use a lot of stonework, woodwork, a lot of water, a lot of greenery, a lot of plants. So we
Wow.
have the mindfulness garden, we do yoga, we have a lot of incense burning, we have just groups outside, we have barbecues together, we have
I love
big
that.
groups together, we have SEMPI social groups.
Uh-huh.
So I run them here as well, and I teach the community how to run them in their communities as well.
Uh-huh.
So I also have support workers come in here to have a break from their jobs, and
Right.
they go down into the mindfulness garden too. So we are we also have massage rooms. So it's very holistic and
Uh-huh.
just very comfortable, and it's not clinical at all. I just don't believe healing can take place in a lot of the clinical settings. So we're trying something very different.
That sounds very, very different to me. Yes, and I think you enjoy your work, right? It seems like you're
Oh,
very, very passionate about it.
I'm crazy passionate about my work, and
Uh-huh.
it's what I've been doing for 33 years this year. It's
Right.
all I think about, it's all I do. I don't want to do anything else.
Right. That's great. That is amazing. A quick question, because you again, I looked over your website. I did my homework on you. Do you ever rely on the classics? Uh, let's say Gestalt, Adler, maybe Erickson with identity. Do you rely on the classics in your work at all?
Well, I'm primarily a psychodynamic psychotherapist.
Uh
So
huh.
I work integratively. So I pull from a lot of different models, a lot of different modalities, depending on the person who's in front of me. So,
Mm-hmm.
and Erickson's psychosocial model of
Yes.
development is crucial. And if the stages running through are interrupted in any way, then as a psychodynamic psychotherapist, I can work within that trauma period
Mm-hmm.
and try and get people past there.
Yes.
So all of the different models I just pull in when I need them.
Yes. Yes. That sounds great to me. Yes. Okay. Now, I know that you have done a lot of work, as we would say in America, for example, you have done a lot of work in the field,
Yeah.
social workers here. Now, do you all use the terminology social worker in Australia, or what would that be parallel to in Australia?
Yeah, we have social workers, community workers, support workers, where we all do a very, very similar job, and we also all work together.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was doing my homework on you, I really did appreciate that you actually have gone out in the field and went into people's homes and
Mm,
spent
yeah,
time with them and put a lot of your time with your patients actually in their homes,
yeah.
which sounds amazing. So what was that experience like, and what have you learned from in doing that in this great career you've had?
Well, this I might get emotional here through it because
That's
the
okay.
people who are out there in the community, I am in a very privileged position that I get to go in and see them in their lives instead of them in my office.
Yes.
So by going out to see them, it gives me a huge context and gives me a much bigger um, sort of, I can't think of the word, but I can meet their families. I can
Yes.
see them. I can see where they live. I can see how they live. I can see this, whether they're so poor. I've been into houses where the door's not even on the fridge. They've got nothing and
Mm,
they're going down and getting one meal a day. And I don't know this until I go in there.
right.
So then I can start bringing in extra support services, cleaning services. I work very much outside just being a psychotherapist. I
Hmm.
work very holistically. So if I have somebody come to me who's living in a cave or just has absolutely nothing and is extremely sick and they have work requirements on them, I can't just say, hey, let's get you a job. I have to look holistically at everything from the ground up. And by going out there to their homes, I have 100% view now and I can see
Yes.
exactly what's going on. And it's funny because I live by the motto, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
And to go into people's homes and show them deep care and empathy and non-judgment it just breaks down all of the walls between us, and our
Hmm.
relationship changes to one of, instead of disempowerment where I'm the person supposedly the expert
Hmm.
and they're not, we now go to this level. We are both on the same level. And then that's where I work from.
Right.
That's where I live with
Right.
them.
Yes, that is pretty much as you said, a holistic approach, which sounds wonderful. Yes,
Yeah.
I know whenever when I first got into counseling, which I was actually a relatively own up there, myself. I was actually 35 when I kind of got, well, I shouldn't say I got serious, but whenever I left my first line of work and got into counseling and then into academia. But I did appreciate, I was very lucky because I was picked to be an OASIS, Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services counselor. And
Okay.
what happened was is that we were not in any kind of glamorous settings at all. And it was at times, as you say, brutal and emotional. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, when you did have those breakthroughs,
Yeah.
it was so worth it. So it really did. I knew I had made the right decision, and yeah, it is a career well worth being in. I wouldn't change my career for anything. I keep telling people I'm in this career for very, very selfish reasons. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
so
But
as we
the deepest work that I do is on the street.
yes,
So yeah,
yes,
they're the guys I work with in the parks and the men that I talk to and the women that I talk to living in cars and things. They're 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 oh.
yes,
They're who I also wrote the model for. So when I
yes,
was studying my master's degree and I was writing my thesis and collecting all my data, I was actually working. I chose women in Sydney experiencing primary homelessness who also had a mental
yes,
illness, and I was measuring stigma from the
yes,
general community towards them.
yes,
So I had to get in very deep with these women,
yes,
and they ranged from quite young to quite old, so I had a very broad age range.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that came through the most was they had no voice, and when they
Yes.
had a voice, they had to be very, very careful how to use it, and they just were so disempowered. It broke my heart. It was very difficult to do the research and remain detached as well. So,
Right. They continually told us at the university, and now I'm at the university teaching and counseling other students, but they said, try to keep your emotions intact. And of course, that went in one ear and out the other. Because
yeah,
because at the end of the day, I don't think this job would mean as much to us if we did not have that bit of emotion there. So,
yeah.
yeah. So, how do you advise specifically with, and you did work actually with the disabled population as a job coach or something early on in your career, didn't you? Were you a job
Oh,
placement?
yeah.
Yes.
From the age of 18 right through, I still work with people with disabilities now. So I've worked in community with people with disabilities long before mental health was a
Yes.
thing,
Yeah.
because mental health is recent.
Yes.
Years ago, it was people with disabilities, and they often would have dual diagnosis with a mental health issue, but it was never taken into consideration. So I've worked in general population with pretty much most disabilities, I would say, and the person and the family as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So I think, sorry, I've lost my train a little bit there.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, it's okay. Don't worry. But you know what? As I was going to say, as we wind things up, there are. I think you answered the first sub question under empowerment. The second sub question would be social interaction and
Yes.
younger people with disabilities. How important that the social interaction is. And as well as bring it to a new, more modern dimension of social media. And
Okay.
when I say social interaction, you hit on Erickson earlier, and that Erickson I relied when I was in my doctorate degree. I did so much research on Erickson, and I really do follow Erickson and particularly stage 4, industry
Yep.
versus inferiority, which I'm sure yeah, I'm very well aware of. And I just want to get your take on that with young disabled children and the social interaction piece. How important do you think it is? Do you think it is important? Do you think it has a place? And just, what your overall opinion and also advice would be to parents out there who do have children who are disabled?
Well, it's critical that
Yes.
they are exposed to social skills and social norms and everybody else in community from day dot, basically.
Yes.
I worked in the first inclusion classroom in Australia, in Victoria.
Uh-huh.
So we had kids with disabilities come into mainstream class for the first time, and I was blessed enough to actually be working in that class. And this was
And
1984.
And how old were the kids when they first came in? How?
They were about 4.
Oh, that's
So,
yes.
yeah, 4 and 5 and
Oh,
6.
yes. I'm just getting
Yeah.
chill bumps now. I love that. I love it. Yes.
Yeah. So the first early integration class I was working in, and it was absolute. My heart was singing because it was just the kids just melded into the classroom so beautifully. And
Yes.
sure, everybody has a different need.
Uh-huh.
Everybody in the class, it wasn't just the kids with a
Yes.
disability. Everybody had a need, whether it was, whatever. It was just so many. And it was just an overall beautiful experience. And from that day, integrated classrooms started. So, look, I'm absolutely, the stigma in communities is doing my head in.
Yes.
And another reason why I wrote the model, because when I teach it, everybody comes down to the same level once they understand each other's perspectives.
Very good point.
Model teachers.
Yes. That is
and this is what was going on in the classrooms.
Yes.
So everybody got to see everybody's perspective, and it was beautiful. And I still feel blessed to this day to have been involved in that event. So
yes.
Yeah, there's no segregation. It's just rubbish.
Yes, I think you hit on something very, very important, the perspective factor. Everybody has a different perspective, so we have to know what that is before we can work with it. So that is a crucial point to understand. And I also love what you said about everybody has different needs. You know, everybody's skills are varied in varied subjects, you know. So, hey, what does it really mean, you know, to have a disabled person in the class? Other than that, yeah, I mean, you know, we have to work differently with all of our students. So, yes, so thank you very much for that. That was a very, very powerful message and much appreciated.
Well, the other thing is a lot of the kids who are coming into class now, we're seeing having side effects from parental alienation because of the divorces that are going on. We're seeing kids with major anxiety disorders, kids with depression. We're seeing kids with ADHD, opposition defiance disorder, and then we've got one person who may be in a wheelchair. I mean, really, what's the difference? The kid in the wheelchair is probably coping way better than the others.
Right.
So
that is a valid point. We never, you know, hey, we never know what's going to develop throughout the year with any student or any circumstance. So,
no.
yes, yes.
And the thing is that I've noticed through it, and I'll just share this with you before you go, is I believe everybody in society is equal, whether we like to think that or not, because what I notice is we have 1 billion people with an identified disability in the world and 450 million people with a diagnosed mental health issue. And I think that figure's not even right. I think it's way higher than that.
Well,
and I reckon we're looking at 1,600,000,000 people in the world, maybe, with stuff going on.
Right.
And this can change. 1 minute I can have one person across the desk from me who's a real high flyer saying mental health issues, disability, what's that? I don't have time for anyone with that. And then in the next minute, this person's so overwhelmed, we're looking at them going down the road of depression or whatever. So we kind of, what I'm noticing in society is we take turns in mental health and disabilities. 1 minute I might not be well enough and might be in the hospital.
Yes.
So we've got to kind of figure out how to support each other through all of these waves, because it is not like this, but society seems to view it in this tier structure.
Yes.
I'm better than you. And we're all shouting perspectives at each other.
Very good
and nobody's
point.
listening.
Yes, very, very good point. And I think that's where we all need to work hard to end stigma. Yes, because
absolutely.
Yeah. And the final question,
no-brainer.
The final question would be social media.
I believe that one little voice is like a drop in the ocean, and if we can gather a community around us, even through social media, which seems to be the platform that everybody's gathering on, because they can watch for a little while and start to watch what others are doing, hear others' voices who are feeling a bit stronger at the time. This is what I'm noticing. So the stronger members of community will start to stand up and have a voice. The others are watching them doing it, and then they start to stand up and have a voice. This is when I jump in and I really support them during this time. Like, should I put up a picture? Should I do this?
Yes.
I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
If you feel like that's what you need to be doing at this point, then they take the few steps up. So it's sort of a graduated exposure thing. And then all of a sudden I've got this group that I'm watching who are all empowering each other, and then hit the block button, really, if somebody's coming in who've got other outside issues and aren't liking what they're seeing. Get rid of them. Stick with the positive, stick with the empowerment, support each other to have a voice and rise up against stigma. We've got to start a new anti-stigma revolution. That's what I'm all about. I think about it day and night. It's all the work I do. It's all the videos I put out. It's just constant, and we just have to empower each other and listen to each other's perspectives and opinions. Even if we don't agree with them, hear them and basically social media is awesome, and I'm on all the platforms. So Twitter's exceptionally good for this too. Instagram, awesome. Facebook, but the other two platforms getting out there, and I'm just watching the rise. And I tell you what, that drop in the ocean is going to become a puddle, which is going to become a wave, which is going to become a tsunami. And I reckon, you can quote me on this, by 2019, 2020, the stigma is going to really drop, and people are going to become hugely empowered, and the voices will be so strong and amazing, and we'll all be rising up. That's what I believe.
And I think that is a very, very good statement to end the show on. We will all rise up. That sounds good to me. I cannot thank you enough. This has been a very, very good interview. I would love to have you back anytime. You know, we've opened it up to do Skype. So if you have anything you'd like to talk about in next month or next week or a few months from now, hit me up on Instagram, and we would love to hear from you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good morning, I should say. It's night here, but it's morning there, right?